Our first speaker today, Chikahiro, he will tell us about how to deal with GATT objects, GATT models in Ruby on Rails. And I think that everyone had an experience working with beautiful user class that has at least 50 columns, right? Raise your hand or your coffee. Yeah, so we got really nice audience. Please welcome Chikahiro.
Hello. He already leaked that one information, but let's go. Okay, it's okay. So it's good you wake up, right? So welcome. So I hope you will have enjoyed something. So my name is Chikahiro. I will talk about for the monolith. My topic is a monolith a problem? So let's go. So I think for the last decades, the monolith was often blamed for several reasons. Let's say it's not scalable, or it's too slow for the deployment, and then it can be very bottleneck for that. Or its boundary is not clear, so you don't know what is this object or what's the system doing for the internally. And also it's difficult to maintain, or it's very complex and it's hard to debug, right? Then this is people complaining about it. Often, microservice is a good solution for it. This was told for many years. Let's say, I would argue about it. Let's see some fact. So this is a tweet from the Shopify, from Toby, the CEO, co-founder. It's a monolith, it's not scalable. In the Shopify, in the Black Friday in the 2023, they claim that they can process 145 billion requests on Friday and peak 60 million requests per minute. Is it not scalable enough? The other example. Deployment might be too slow. There's a many large applications in the world. So Facebook, Shopify, Instagrams. They are claiming Facebook. They are releasing new version every 75 minutes. Shopify, 30, 40 times a day. Is it too slow for us? And microservice said, it's a simple and very easy to maintain. So this is a typical diagram of the microservices. You may heard it, microservice hell, microservice fatigue. It is really easy and simple. The other thoughts, sometimes technologies or something they have that trend or cycles, like a pendulum between two different opposite directions, go and back. This can be found not only for software engineering, let's say for the fashion. I'm not a fashionable person. I'm just happy to be having this orange burger, so I cannot tell well. But you can see that in the decades, the time scales are decades. And then it's a cycling, it's a go and back in the fashion. Then now we are talking about for our industry. Now we are in 2025. So let's see, in that time scale of decades. 10 years ago, it was one of the significant book was published, Building Microservices, from some, I believe it's Newman, pronunciation might be wrong, but it's from some. And same year, Kubernetes was published, which is significant infrastructure for the microservices. This is not the same year, it's kind of gradual, but Netflix was claimed as a very good example of the microservices, and even they are doing very well, and also they are later sharing very nice, interesting ideas like chaos engineering or testing production. So that was happening for this decade. Let's go back 10 more years. 2004, Rails was invented. That time was not famous yet, but I think after 2 years, 2006, I think, Twitter was bootstrapped by Rails. I think this is one of the first major applications. By the way, Twitter later on, I think after 2-3 years, 2008 or 9, they moved to Scala. You know that time, what people say that? Oh, Rails is not scalable enough. So Rails is gone. So this popular, it's a hype. Can you tell me, was it true? 2008, GitHub was founded by Ruby on Rails. We go a little bit further more, old decades. It's not 10 years, but 1998, XML RPC was published. It became later on SOAP, which is basic technology of the service-oriented architecture, SOA. And that time, especially for enterprise applications, they are blooming about SOA. The example, there's a famous leak document from Amazon that 2002, they moved from monolith to be service-oriented architecture, and they succeed. And later on, they make this API to the public. This become AWS. So now you can see that there's a wave. We are in the 2025. So what's going to happen right now? There's a report from ThoughtWorks. They are a consultancy, and they are also very well known for the tech leaders. And multi-followers. So multi-follower is here. They published a report for the last year, macro trends in the tech industry, and it says, monoliths rise again. The other example, 2023, Amazon Prime Video. They are saying that they move from microservice to be monolith. And then they claim they reduce cost by 90%. A bit fair, I heard they are moving from serverless, lambdas, to monolith. So a bit serverless even further for the microservices. So this is so dramatic, but anyway, this is a direction, what they took. The another might be more specific for us. This is a trend of the, Google search trend of the Ruby on Rails. You can see time scale is like 10 years, like from 2004. And Ruby and Rails, you can easily imagine that they are very tightly coupled for the trend. In 2025, we can see Rails is spiking. Probably, not sure the reason, but probably Rails 8 was published on November in 2025. Might be the reason. This might be just more Rails specific, because if you see other, like for the frameworks, let's say for Spring or Next.js or Django's, Laravel's, but you can see that it's spiking is a Rails. And Spring also a little bit, but this is for your information. So, back to the topic. We all have to know, in my opinion, there's no silver bullet. Monoliths, microservices are architectures which has own pros and cons. We go a little bit deep look into it. So, okay, we have two architectures. Languages, for sure, monolith is monolingual, and microservice can be multilingual. I mean, you can use for the different languages per services. This is one of significant benefit for the microservices. And CA and deployment. The tendency is monolith is slower because it's a bigger system. And microservices, one service is tend to be simple and small, so it can be fast. But if you think about for the infrastructure, this is a comparably. Monolith can be also complex, but compared with microservices, it's a simpler. And typically, you need Kubernetes for the infrastructure, which is also very heavy to maintain. Latency. Microservices they need to communicate something API, maybe network might be involved, or something message bus. So latency is higher than monolith. Scaling. This is a typical strategy for the scaling. Monolith is typically using for the scale up. It's a vertical, other word is a vertical. This means like okay, you have one machine, make it bigger. This tend to be high cost and limited. Microservices, they tend to use for our typical scenario for the scaling, it's a scale out, horizontal. You can put machine as much as possible. So it tends to be low cost and unlimited. Tracing. So monolith is a single instance, but for the microservices, it's a multiple instances. I already showed you for the diagrams. It's often you need something for the special. Boundary, tendency. Monolith can be vague. Microservice can be clear, or you have to define. Otherwise, you maybe API contract or payload contract. Otherwise, you can't make it. So boundary is clear. And one thing for the microservice, maybe to understand microservices, probably I think it's a good thing. It's to be considered. It's a Conway's law. Simply say that it's the system architecture is reflecting your organizational communication. Microservices can be a more solution for the autonomy or scalability of organization. And this is for also I quote some note from the building microservices second version from again Sam, and he also said that microservices is often a bad choice for brand new products or startups. I quote another example from Christian from Eurocode. There are startups out that they have more microservices than customers. Yeah, that's a nice situation, right? So, and I would give another aspect for the microservices. This is coming from my friend. In order to use another component, monolith is a just method call for sure, and microservice can be API call, which can be failed. That means you have to implement retry mechanism, or even further, circuit breakers. Monolith never failed, you don't need it for sure. The question is it essential complexity? My friend, he worked for the microservice company for a while. I think it's 4 or 5 years. In the end, he hates it because of this. So, and he didn't find fun, or he didn't find it is an essential thing to be he's doing for work. Microservices is coming with infrastructure cost. So back to the first question, is the monolith a problem? I don't think so. No. But what's the problem? To think about for it, then there's another interesting tweet I would quote. It is from the GitHub ex-CTO, Jason, and they tried to break down monolith to be microservice, and then he said he really regret about it. It's one of the biggest mistake. Instead, he suggests on this order: monoliths, app, service, and microservices. What does it mean? So there might be between. Maybe we know it as modular monolith. What's a modular monolith? I picked some for presentation from Sam, and he's also explaining. Modular monolith is having the kind of advantage of the microservice as well, but it's like deploy in one object. So it's not deploying via services, but inside of the monolith system, they have the clear boundaries. And he also mentioned that it is often underestimated it can be good option. For us, Shopify, they have nice gems. I think you might know it, called I believe Packwork. But this is essentially, you can put modularity or boundary inside of your applications. This is kind of linter, so it can define, like, if you're violating for the packages, then it can tell you are violating boundaries. Now, back to little for the trend. So we are seeing that, this trend is go and bark. I think, so for the next decade would be the era of modular monoliths. And it already mentioned that for the report, which I already referred, that for the ThoughtWorks, it says monoliths rise again, particularly modular monolithic approach. So then, now we know what to do. Yay, so everything can be solved. So there's no silver bullet. Last year, in the Rails world, from Shopify, Irene, and she shared a very nice presentation. I would recommend to see it. The mice of the modular monolith. So it doesn't solve problem, not always. If we want to go for monoliths to be modular monoliths, high cohesion is necessary. But instead, what I seen in many projects is actually this. Got the object, and if you have it, actually you can't move. I think this is a problem. What's a got object, or can be got class? It is an anti-pattern. Single object nodes does too much. As a characteristic, it's tight coupled, poor cohesion, it's hard to maintain, can be not clear boundary because it knows so many things. It is simply the ball of mud. The story, maybe I can share. So you want to change the user registration logic, and somehow it breaks payment feature. So because it knows so much, maybe you just change a user object, then somehow it affects other things because it is tightly coupled. This is kind of the symptom of the got object. So example of got object by code. So you may have a lot of concerns to be included. And so many another model was related. You have a lot of callbacks, more than thousands of lines, a lot of the field on the database. For me, it's very horrible. So back to the first slide. We saw it, some complaints about all the monoliths. Not scalable? I don't think so. Maybe it's enough for the 140 billion for requests in the one day. Deployment bottlenecks, yeah, every 30, 40 minutes, it's pretty enough. But still remain these problems or complaints. Those can be characteristic of got object. So, and even another aspect, even if you want to go for the microservices, but if you have got object, you can't. Instead, you can get very dependent services. You may have to deploy together with those services, and it's hard to maintain. There's a name for this pattern. So does anyone knows? Great, yes. Distributed monoliths. Even worse. So you don't get solve original problems, and then even you get much harder infrastructure costs and burden for the deployment. To be honest, I saw many places in this one. They say they claim to the microservices, but this is mess. So if you want for the refactoring to the got object to be high cohesion, I would say there's just simply 2 steps. So better model design and refactoring. So let's discuss for the first one, the first step. For here, where the got object come from? I saw many projects and it's so common, but why? I think one thing, it's a try, or I would say understand try better. Don't repeat yourself. I think everyone knows. This is the idea coming from the programmatic programmers from Andrew Hunt and Dave Thomas. And just for the quote for the definition, every piece of knowledge must have a single unambiguous, sorry my pronunciation, so authoritative representation within a system. The point is knowledge, not for the code. I was lucky because in the last year, Eurocode, Dave Thomas was there. I had a chat with him, and he is actually regret about it for this dry explanation because he thought he did poor explanation and people misunderstood. By the way, I've met him 10 years back in Tokyo, so I was happy to talk with him more because that time I couldn't speak English well, so then now I could more communicate with it. So then, yeah. Maybe I can see him next 10 years, hopefully much earlier, but anyway. Okay, so back to the topic. What does it mean for the knowledge? Take the example. You have customer and invoice and receipt. So this is a modeling. And here, this is code looks like. And you can see the duplicated code. Let's go for dry up for this duplicate code. So for instance, then you can introduce for the STI to be here, and you introduce a document object, and then it with type, and then now, see the code. Now, there's no duplicate code. Yeah, great. But business told you that, receipt, it should issued after invoice was paid, for sure. Okay, then let's implement this logic. Now, so receipt is here, and then you override for the superclass of the issue, and then put the validation for it. And also in the invoice model, so you put for the paid, and also you can put for the here for the document, so you can put for the new column for the paid art. And then now next requirement, invoice can only be issued for company, not for the customer. Okay, let's introduce next one. So now makes more like adding another differences to the company model, and also puts the validation as well, because invoice is only for the company and then receipt for the customer. So let's put the validation here in the model. Now, next requirement. After issuing the invoice, it should generate PDF. Okay, fair enough. Let's introduce, yeah? So, and now PDF is here, model is here, so then now invoice having the difference with it, and also override for the issue again, and then build a PDF method. And also now, so PDF has the differences to the invoice, but actually this is a document because of STI. Yeah? Nice. So, but see, for this document object, doesn't look like got object. So back to the first one, customer invoice receipt. What I say, it's knowledge. Invoice and receipt are different. This is a knowledge. Particularly more, I can say, domain knowledge, because they are different papers, they are different time to the issue. This code duplication might be coincident. This is a similarity. If you keep as it is, don't try for the duplicate code, then so it is another implementation what I showed. So but now it's clear. Relationship is only for the invoice. And then also probably at the most you can do maybe for the put the concerns for the just for the issuing feature, but this is maybe at the most. Even also depends on context, but so this is might be you can do for the dry, and then so compare these diagrams, and then you can see for the last one, there's a clear modules and the boundaries. I would say modularity or cohesion or boundary may appear naturally. Some said modular monolith is something you are not going to pursue. If you do modeling properly, then it may come. So it will be passive result. So for understanding more better model design, so this is actually for the dry, but also domain-driven design, it's also helping. So this is coming from the Matthias. He's also, I think it's a good person for the DDD. I took once his workshop and it was mind-blowing or it's eye-opening. Yesterday also was a nice talk for the DDD as well. So DDD, but I think it is really helpful to the understanding about for the model design. I'm also a learner, so I cannot say I'm an expert, but this blog post is also like recommend to read it. It's very simple. So another example for the mixed model. You may not for the invoice on the receipt for the STI, but user. Don't you have it? I saw many places. It can be different model. Another example, the article, and it has an author, and the article has a status, draft, scheduled, and published. That can be different models. Maybe article and draft articles, they may have very, very similar attributes, but they are different behaviors. And schedule might be just relationship, just example. Another example, like you have the order which is related with customer product, and order has a status, accepted and shipped. Order and shipment can be different domains. So it notes maybe too much. Now we saw a little bit for the how to see the better modeling and go to refactoring code object. So and if you have, but it takes really time because if you already have, so and maybe you have to maintain for the backwards compatibility or many things already accumulated. It's a typical like for the tech dev, and what you see in the surface might be only little bit. Therefore, in the practical advice, I would recommend to go with clear business merit. Maybe you don't go for the refactoring in sake of refactoring. Maybe you cannot go for say to the okay 6 months we need refactoring. It maybe not sounds good. And it might be, I mean, the reality, it might be trouble. Therefore, example. I had application which already has a like type with users and okay, so this is not the words as a super good object, but it was there. And then there's another requirement from the business. We want to have another new application with single sign-on. Let's take it as a chance for the refactoring with this clear business goal. So for instance, so the application A now, so let's say, so for the single sign-on, authentication matter, there's a two significant column for it. First, application A, extract these columns to the another model inside the application, user auth. It's nothing special like for that here. So just put it here, and then so put for the relationship here, but at least one responsibility from user was extracted. And next step, what I did in that time is, so that's some application level, so you can have like more, like little move for the responsibility as well. And next step, what I did is go with Rails engine. I extract to the Rails engine for the same one for the user auth and having different databases because I need for the mount for the new application. And then so extract some logic to be module to the concerns. And then so application is mounting to the Rails engine. And next step is easier. So just for the new application, it's mounting the engine again. So this is like one of the architecture I did. To be fair, I worked this project for I think almost 10 years ago. So that time, Rails was not supporting for the multiple databases. I think it's Rails 7, it's already supported for the multiple database. So you may not need it. So, but it is one of the example what you can do. And it worked. So this might be the example of the another modular monolith. Modular monoliths can have multiple databases. So it should not, it is not should be, it is not always one database. So, and this option also like not so many company does it. Then for another example, the order has a lot of status, new, ordered, paid, fulfilled, shipping, finished, etc., etc. So it's a mixing domains. It's a order processing, payment, fulfillment, shipment. It has a lot of problems, but for just pick some more problem. For instance, order cannot track multiple shipments. That's a problem for the business. And related order needs another order to be tracked, another problem. And changing order needs repayment because in the order needs to be recreate. So this can be like for the another example like to be refactor. How can model can be? The another tips if we want to for refactoring, I would not recommend for the big bang release. It can be really risky, and then so don't go for like everything in once. Instead, I would recommend for the slicing the feature with clear business merit. For instance, now we have this order. Maybe next step, you can just track multiple shipments and then you put extract like one of responsive from order. And the next step, maybe you can make multiple orders from the basket. And in the last, you don't need to the repayment with slicing with clear business merit. And it makes easier for to the convince to the business side as well. For example, like for the first step, order can track multiple shipments. Okay, let's say you have for the, in the order, that this is related for the fields and for the method. Obviously, there's much, much more, but just for the simplified. And then here, so you can make the relationship to be here. So this field to be moved to the shipment, probably address states for the duplicated because order also needs address and shipment also needs address. But tracking number shipped at might be just go to created at for the shipment. And also this order ship method might be just initialized method. Wonderful example. So, and also the other things, again, for the big bang release for the rollout, not only for the feature, but if you go for the release, also it's not recommended to the big bang because it is really risky. Instead, I recommend for the incremental release, maybe you can use this really internet pattern to use. It's a strangler fig. It is from Martin Fowler. It's basically like for, you don't go for one time in switch. You make for the like proxy or something here and gradually move. And unfortunately, I don't have that much time to be here, but there's a really nice blog post from the Shopify how they can do in the real life. And this is really explaining with real code and with huge applications. You may not have to, maybe you can have the database downtime. It's often your case. And also you have like significant bigger data, like let's say migration takes like days. But this is Shopify example allows you to how to do. So, recap. Is the monolith a problem? No, I don't think so. There's a tendency that to blame technologies. Let's say, oh, Rails is bad, Java is bad, monolith is bad, COBOL is bad. But was it true? Are you really saying about for the real problem? What I think, my opinion, the problem is often got object. It is an issue of modeling. To fix got object, the first step is a North Star modeling. Understanding dry plus DDD will help. And then go to refactoring with incremental release with clear business merit. For the techniques for the incremental release, I already mentioned for the strong graphic. I didn't explain, but probably you can use for the feature flag for the gradual rollout, or there's a technique called shadow traffic, which is actually we had a nice talk from Simon. Yeah. So what he mentioned about his technique it's actually shadow traffic. Do you remember for the recording for the traffic and for the put it for the new module? This is a technique called shadow traffic. So this kind of technique you can use. Thank you so much. So I hope you have something interesting. So that I'm also like, I think you have also many experiences as well. I'm very happy to have a chat with you. I'm also a learner. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Great talk. Any questions?
So Q&A is not my best time. I'm very have a question.
Thanks for the talk. It was very interesting. I think that splitting models into like big models like document into separate models like invoice and receipt is generally a good idea. But when trying it, I often found like a problem where there was a requirement where the business said, oh, but I want to see all my documents in like in a table. And if I have a separate receipt and invoice, then it makes it kind of hard to display all the documents. And what's worse, they need sorting and pagination and this sort of stuff.
Okay.
So do you have like any thoughts on solving this kind of problem?
Yes. So this is another reason. Probably there's many got objects. It's common because for the what it mentioned. It can be denormalization for the database level. So like because for the requirement for the read operations. So like pagination or like let's say for receipt and invoice, like you want to have the search for this kind of stuff. Yeah. So I would say this is a separate concerns with the modeling. So but understand for read. So read operation and write operation, they can have the different requirement. So what I say is more like for the modeling and the write operation, it's important is a database data integrity and consistency. But read operation, often you need for this kind of performance issues to be here. Then maybe you can use for the materialized view or maybe Elasticsearch. But this is a separate concerns with modeling. So and also like what to put here in the attributes, it really depends on context. So like in this example is one example, but maybe in the business case might be the case that something for there's some another model you can find. But this is particular finding this kind of for the modeling. It's maybe DDD is useful. So but does it answer your question? Great.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks for the talk. And I have a more business maybe related question. So in your experience, have you found some kind of metrics or measurements so that you can say that the refactoring you're making and the changes in the modeling you're making are actually having impact on the product or on the business? Basically the business merit maybe in a way. So
I see. Okay. Yeah. I explained for the clear business merit, but this is more product features. But probably for the refactoring, so I mean, metrics it's a very good question, I believe. And to be honest, I don't have the good answer yet, and I also like interested. But I just share some idea. for instance, refactoring. So in theory, and maybe we all know that, not refactored code and refactor compared with well refactored code and not refactored code. So the time of the change, it's significantly different. So this is maybe, but it's for the new feature. So because if you new feature and if the code is already messed, then you need more time. And also maybe it's a time for the, let's say the one metrics is a time for the new feature. And the another metrics can be the bug. So if you have the mess, then it can be unstable. And the another metrics, I had a close, but come across, but sorry, I forgot. Sorry. Yeah. So, but sorry. In the answer is I also don't know, and I would happy to discuss if you have any idea. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for the talk. It was really nice. Going back to the God objects, do you think that they are a consequence of inheritance? So let's say we have a project without inheritance, where inheritance is forbidden. Will that prevent God objects from appearing? What do you think?
Inheritance means a more object-oriented perspective?
Yep.
Yeah. In my opinion, so inheritance is really limited. Yes, I agree. So and I think it's Sandy Metz mentioned that. So delegation is better than inheritance or something like that. I mean, I didn't explain well, but it's a concerns I put in one example. It isn't inheritance, but it's a delegation, like for extracts of data. So, yeah, I think so. Inheritance is one of might be problematic, and it's not so often. At least for me, I mean, in the textbook, you can say that if you have the common to be having like let's say cat and dog, you can introduce the like parent class of the I don't know, animal or something, but in the reality, it's not so often. I agree. Inheritance can be careful.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. Understanding how to split the things into modules and seeing the boundaries is one big thing, but the other big thing is educating the team on the same stuff. And I wonder if you have such experience and how did it go?
Yes. So I think this is like one of 4 points, and that's why I wanted to make this presentation, by the way. So for the dry. So and like no, this is not about knowledge, but it's sometimes I feel like I think this is a separate object, but sometimes I had also like very conflict, like, oh no, this is like, you can be, it is a duplicated something, and this is, yeah, I also sometimes struggle. And if you ask me about you have an experience or not, yes, I have an experience, and you know how them, I don't know yet. Sometimes it's hard. Yeah. But to be honest, I also having this kind of mistake a lot. So then slowly I notice, and then now I come to be here. But this, I cannot say I'm the expert. So, but at least like it was my process. I was not understanding well. If I say 10 years back, and if I see this slide, I may not be understand. So yeah, maybe.
I would just add to that, just invite your friends next year to the conference. You can learn together and then discuss the ideas. Okay, we have time for one more question.
Thank you for your great talk. From my experience, I would say that we had one big monolith, and it was decided by the team and by the technical management to apply a modular monolith, like split it into the domains and have boundaries. And you mentioned one interesting gem, packwork, but I would say from our experience, if we would like to apply such splitting and apply modular monolith and to use packwork, it comes difficult with Ruby on Rails because we have, such things like inheritance. Someone already mentioned that. We have these Rails things, has one, has many belongs to. And if we say that we would like to ensure that, for example, payment domain and all service classes inside this payment domain will call subscription domain only through one class, through one point, maybe some gateway if we specify the dependencies. How would we ensure that on the fly Ruby doesn't call objects from one domain to another? Because if we use static analyzers like Packwork, we can ensure that only constants, right, not calling each other because it's a static analyzer. But how to deal with object-to-object calls if we split into the domains and we want to ensure that one domain doesn't call another domain, and how to deal with these things like has many belongs to and in inheritance if we would like to say that these two domains cannot call each other directly. They should do it through one point. Thank you.
So your question is like okay, you have like one of like big module, and so it's coding, and it's how even Packwork cannot detect for this kind of for the violate. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's a. I can say it's.
May I answer this?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So one thing that we did in my project was that we put boundary on active record, not statically but dynamically, meaning that if one engine is trying to make changes in a domain that belongs to another engine, it can only do it via its public API. So if you try to directly, you can read whatever you want, whatever is exposed by active record, but if you try to change it, it's detected that you didn't go through the service layer for this engine that you depend on, and the change is rejected. And you don't even need to have that enabled in production. It's enough if you have it enabled in test to detect it. And basically you say, nope, like you're not going through public API for changes, so we could forget to synchronize indexes, publish Kafka, etc., etc. You need to do it through a different layer. Yeah, just send an exception. It's doable. Yes, extend your objects, and they basically, you check a couple of things at the beginning of methods like save, update, and all of those that make changes in active record objects.
Oh, better than me.
All right. Thank you for telling us how to deal with this sharp Rails knife. Chikahiro, thank you.
Thank you so much. By the way, so you can find my SNS or LinkedIn here in my website. So then, yeah, if you want, let's connect. Thank you so much.